Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Quick Thoughts with Muff, Jim, and Alex. This week we have some interesting topics. We're going to bounce around to a bunch of different sports. And what we're going to start in is the WNBA. Liz Cambage comes out on Twitter while in the middle of free agency negotiations and shares a strong opinion on the NBA, on the WNBA. She says, yes, the WNBA, where a head coach can get paid 4 times the highest paid player's supermax contract. LMAO, and y'all think I'm going to spend another season upgrading my seat on a flight to get to games out of my own pocket. This was in reference to Becky Hammon's salary, which will be exceeding $1 million. Thoughts, Jim?
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. The pay gap in the WNBA is ridiculous. But the other counter argument to that is we got to get eyeballs on that sport. We have to get eyeballs in order for the dollars to be there. So what's it going to take? It's it's a circular argument that I don't know how to solve.
Jim? Muff?
I don't know, and I understand the high profile Becky Hammond being somebody who's coming from the NBA to a head coaching position, but I gotta believe there's 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 more ways to allow your players to be paid more money at the supermax level, which is what Liz Cambage is going to be at, or what she was looking for. I think she's signed since with Phoenix, if I recall from when this initially came out. But this is another one of those, which comes first. I think there's a verbal agreement.
I thought it was with the LA Sparks.
Whoever, another team.
Okay, sorry.
Let's be real honest. We all know I'm pretty much on record from the past. I don't follow WNBA. So I am not the best person to discuss this as far as teams.
Just point of clarification.
Point of clarification. This is setting up a potential situation that's closer to the NCAA sports than it is a professional basketball association, where the coaches farly outpaid than the players. And we all know how we feel about NCAA football in this situation. So be interested to see how this transpires over the next 2 to 3 years.
Anything else, Jim? Rebuttals?
No, it's good.
We're good. All right, let's move on then from the WNBA to the NBA. LeBron James has returned back from his swelling, the swelling of much conversation last episode. And the Lakers win in overtime on his return, and he drops a triple-double. Russ was benched at the close of the game, and he said he was okay because they won. And James says his knee warmed up. Any thoughts on that situation in LA? Muff?
Oh, LeBron comes back. It's that triple-double, just like Ice Cube said. I don't know if it was the right day, but it was a good day, apparently. Russ getting benched, there's a lot of just continued conversation about Russ, that he was, named one of the top 75 players in the NBA at one point. Is that still true? Was it ever true? Is he just riding the coattails of Kevin Durant and others? I don't know. But all this means for LA is they beat the Knicks. I'm not saying the Knicks are a super great team this year, so we'll see more in the next couple weeks when LeBron comes back, and to see if there's any more drama with Russ and AD. Let's be honest.
Sure, that's true. Jim?
I think it's funny that LeBron's back after a week when he was supposed to be out indefinitely due to swelling. I think Vogel needs to work on his terminology when he's talking about his players. I think the way that they're handling Russ is a little better. I think that they're coaching him up. Hey, we sat you out, but we still love you, and he's happy because they're winning. And I think Russ is going to find his way to being a role player, a guy that we need in the clutch, but not necessarily the show like he had been in years past when everybody left him. I think, given where everybody else stands in the league, this is good news for the Lakers.
I agree. It's good news. Bronny's back. Moving on to another topic in the NBA, the other LA Clippers. They're unsure if Paul George or Kawhi Leonard will be back this season from injury, not from energy. Injury. Paul George with an injured elbow, Kawhi Leonard with an injured ACL. Jim?
I think with all the injuries and all the issues, I think the COVID season is still plaguing the NBA, and I think that they should probably give it delay the season an extra week next year. Give them a little time. They rush things, they push things, and now look what's going on. I think it's time to maybe slow it down a second, get your stars back so that the NBA becomes a little bit more relevant for us to watch, and so that it becomes so it becomes fun again.
You get all your superstars back.
Yeah.
I don't think the answer is delaying the start of the season. I think it's allowing more free reign back into the load management situation. I had to dig deep into my memory bank for this. Load management became something that had to be managed through the NBA. So you can only do so much, which was meant to keep the superstars, or at least as many superstars as possible, playing in high profile matchups. So I forget what all the rules were about load management, but you can only do so much. I think you just free that back open to allow for people like the Greg Popoviches of the world to play players when they think they should be playing them and not play them, because it's not about the season, because let's be real honest, nobody cares about the NBA until Christmas. And even then, if you're not a real fan, you're only half watching it until the playoffs start. So let's just let everything happen for the season. And if they want to put some type of rules on load management, do it for like the last month of the season if you really want to. Or some of the high profiles are playing more as you get down the stretch, because that's when they shut it down. If James Harden's not on a competitive team with a month left, guess what James Harden's not going to do? Care, play, or want to play. That's when you need to make sure that your stars are still out on the court, not in the first month or two of the season.
What? So here's a question this is me adding my own little question in. If you buy tickets to a Lakers game on vacation and show up and it's a load management day for LeBron and they just say not playing, and you have your 7-year-old son with you who idolizes LeBron James and you flew all the way across the country to go see him play, how do you feel?
Shout him out on Twitter. I don't know. See if he'll meet with you after the game. I don't know. It's like, I understand that that's part of this, but just as easily they could say, "Oh, LeBron has swelling in his knee today. He's not going to play." Let's just at least.
But I feel like that's less. That's more like an act of God. Right. What if? Here's my other thought. What if you have to announce load management games like so far in advance? Is that too much of an entertainment?
I think there's too much planning. There's too much planning that comes into that, because you say somebody like LeBron James. LeBron James is 38 years old. 30, what is he, 36, 37? I forget. However old LeBron is, you can't plan 2 months ahead that he's going to start feeling like an older human being. Like, yeah, it's impossible to plan that far ahead. I mean, they already have to announce, what is it, by noon the day of, who's going to be active. That's all for gambling purposes. Let's not get stupid about it. Oh, I'm just saying that's why they announce it for gambling purposes. We gotta
move along, man.
Oh, Alex has follow-up questions.
Yeah, wow, let's go.
Wow. You have nothing else to say, Jim? You have no other opinions?
Wow. Okay, we're done now talking, I guess, Muff.
Oh, may as well let Jim talk about golf then.
All right, golf. Bryson DeChambeau withdrew from the Saudi International before Friday's second round because of a left hand and left hip injury. He shot 3 over 73 in the first round. Some concern about his body breaking down from relentless training, excessive workouts. He says that everyone just needs to chill. What dost thou say?
I say it's somewhere in between. I think that he does push too hard, looking for that long ball. I think that he does cause some detriment to his body, but I also think that we overhype it as fans, and I think that end of the day, he's got to figure out what works for him. The longevity in the game is up to him. He'll figure out what works, but if you're getting hurt all the time, Mr. DeChambeau, tone it down a notch. That's just my take.
Muff?
I'm just curious why he was playing in the Saudi International and not the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the more high-profile event. So if he's not going to win, he can pull out of that event. Whatever. Whether he's truly deeply hurt, he'd probably play through it in the Masters. He'd play through it in a major. I think there is something we've said at his body wearing down. He obviously trained for the Long Drive Championship. It's the beginning of the season. He's probably still working into this shape, a little bit different as far as 4 days versus a powerful event like the Long Drive. Let's not forget about people's bodies wearing down. Tiger Woods was doing Navy SEAL training workouts and just obliterating his body and still winning tournaments. So I'm not saying DeChambeau is Tiger Woods, but there's something to be said about pushing your body to the limit and testing what your body can take and do. And I think DeChambeau does it in a totally different way than Tiger Woods, but the best of the best find ways to push themselves.
Jim, would you like a quick rebuttal there?
Yeah, you're in two different ballparks here, buddy. Tiger Woods doing SEAL training is why Tiger Woods probably won't hit the Jack record. Chambeau needs to think longevity. I mean, this guy is the future of the sport. And
that's a stretch, but okay.
I mean, think about it. Him and Brooksy are probably the two faces that are going to be the faces of the sport moving forward once the old guys get out of the way. He doesn't
forgetting about Rory McIlroy, like
last year during the COVID years, and who were we talking about? We weren't talking about Roy.
We were talking about Phil Mickelson. That's who we were talking about. You're talking about
one
Brooks.
Of the old guys that are getting out of the way. We had a whole year of golf season where we were talking about Brooks and Bryson. That's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're the flame bearers. They're the ones who are getting the social media plugs and the feuds. He doesn't need to be out there training like a madman, but he also knows what he's doing. He is the long bomb artist. He needs to figure himself out and rein it in a little bit. But champions training through and this Tommy Toughnut stuff that Tiger did is insanity.
Gong. All right, moving on to the Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics have started. What is your favorite sport to watch when the Olympics are on, and which one will you go out of your way to not watch? Muff?
Favorite sport to watch consistently is curling, because I don't know, it's something that in my mind I think I could be competitive, maybe not at an Olympic level, but I could compete with others. I go out of my way not to watch. I will typically turn it off if I see, I don't know, anything that's on the like the bobsled course that isn't bobsled. So you got like, what's it, skull and skeleton and all that. Like, just give me bobsled. I don't care what else they're going down on those sleds for.
Wow.
I was just watching Luge right before this. So.
That's wow. Yeah. I don't, just give me bobsled.
All right, Jim.
Wow. So there's wrestling in the Winter Olympics. Obviously, I watch that. I'm a big fan of curling, like Muff, for all the reasons that Muff just said. Anything in the sled arena, Muff, I'm very crushed by you. The skeleton, the bobsled, anything in that area. What I avoid, figure skating, Jordan. All of figure skating.
I may lose points for this, but I'm gonna bring it up. Jim's super into wrestling, yet Jim did not reply to the tweet that I sent out about Penn State crushing Ohio State in wrestling over the weekend.
You're right.
All right, moving on in the Olympics world. Shaun White retiring after the Beijing Games. This is his 5th Olympics. Any thoughts on Shaun White? Muff?
Flying tomato flies once again. Get a medal, buddy.
Jim?
Yeah, I think I hope he goes out with gold. What a guy, as far as bringing snowboarding to America, like forefront. What a great personality. I mean, he was on the cover of Rolling Stone. He was on the cover of all kinds of magazines. What a great career. He's a cool individual. I'd like to see him go out with gold.
Agreed. Now I'm going to recap the medal count for you, just to close out our little Olympics brief talk we had here. The top three right now are the Russian Olympic Committee with 5. They have 1 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze. Norway with 3, Austria with 3, and Italy with 3. The United States currently is sitting at 2 medals, 2 silver medals. The first one was Julia Marino, a 24-year-old out of Westport, Connecticut. She won the silver in snowboard slopestyle. And Jalen Koff, a 25-year-old female out of Alta, Wyoming, who won women's ski moguls. A little shout out to them. The other person I wanted to touch base on was Michaela Schifrin, who hasn't competed yet formally for like a medal, whatever yet, but she's 26-year-old female out of Vail, Colorado, and she only needs 1 more Olympic gold medal to have more than any other, not just any other female alpine skier in U.S. history. So go Miss Schifrin, go United States. USA women's hockey, keeping with the women killing it here. 2 shutouts so far. Most recently, they beat Switzerland 8-0. So there's your Olympics update in the quick thoughts world. We're going to move on to NCAA football. The recruiting rankings are out. Number 1 is Texas A&M. Number 2, Bama. 3, Georgia. 4, Ohio State. 5, Texas. 6, Penn State. 7, Notre Dame. 8, Oklahoma. 9, Michigan. And 10, UNC. Clemson was just outside the top 10 barely. Thoughts on that, Jim?
I think the surprise for me is UNC and Texas A&M being in the top 10. The rest are pretty much no-brainers. I'd be interested to see. I'm assuming that the NIL deals helped A&M.
Oh, Jim's hopping on the bandwagon like everybody else. Texas
No,
A&M.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I'm just saying like that's why they are up so high. I'm assuming they would be in the top 10, but I'm assuming that's why they're up higher. I don't know. I know they got the kid from Ohio State. They got another high-profile recruit. I don't know what led them there. I'm just pontificating. I'm not saying the NIL deal's bad. Good for them. I don't get the UNC thing at all. I have nothing to pontificate there.
Mac Brown.
Yeah,
Signed an extension.
All right. Muff, thoughts on the recruiting rankings?
Jim always wonders why James Franklin continues to be a coach at Penn State. This is why. A top 6 in the country draft class. Whether or not it leads to anything, if you can bring in the high-profile recruits, you at least continue to be relevant. Texas A&M,
Penn State and do nothing.
or you can come to Ohio State and then go to LSU and win championships. One of the two.
That's fair. Fair take. All right. Moving out of NCAA football, moving into the MLB baseball. MLB Players Association has rejected an offer from the MLB to bring in a federal mediator to enter labor negotiations. This comes days after the MLB indicated that they would submit a new deal, but they are now requesting a mediator be involved. This is going to pretty much eliminate the possibility of spring training starting on time. What is our new anticipated start date of the season?
I'm going to go with, we're going to see the season start mid-April.
So about 2 weeks late.
Instead of early April. I'm going to say this is going to delay things by 2 to 3 weeks. Mid to late April, definitely by May. We'll see things on the field. This is another one of those situations where the league is operating in what I think somewhat bad faith. The players, as they're going to say, are saying, oh, we've brought forth a fair deal. It addresses things we want. It still keeps XYZ in play for the owners, blah, blah, blah. The big thing the players are looking for is paying players earlier, which is the exact opposite of what the NFL has been doing, right? The NFL has actually put caps on rookie salaries and stuff like that to take care of the veterans, the guys that came before them, cover health costs and stuff like that. MLB is kind of trying to flip this around a little bit to put more money in the hands of players coming out of high school, which I didn't know was possible because I thought they could make all sorts of money coming out of high school with these huge deals. The whole negotiator mediator thing is interesting because the MLB was not about this, said they weren't going to do anything, and they're like, oh, well, maybe let's have somebody come here and help us figure this out. So I think it just shows that the MLB is not willing to come to the table in good faith.
All right, Jim.
I don't care.
Okay. Jim loves baseball. Got it.
I
Moving
don't
on.
care. I truly don't care. Like, to me, this is all petty for a lot of money on a boring ass sport. Go ahead.
NFL then. Something Jim likes. We'll stir the pot up with some football. Washington has a new name. The Washington Commanders. Jim, what are your thoughts on that?
If I'm doing it solely on, let's ignore the fact of ownership, Washington Commanders and the list of choices that they had, this is the best that we could do. I like it. I like the name Washington Commanders. I'm okay with it. Will I call them that? No.
Muff.
Hey, Washington, command this. End story.
There's a lot that can go wrong with this. I think it sounds like a soccer team name still. I think all of the lists sounded like soccer teams.
Except for the Hogs. That was not a soccer team. That was just dumb.
A basketball team or something.
Yeah.
Get it? Okay. Speaking of Washington, Dan Snyder has new allegations levied against him during a congressional roundtable that was investigating the team's toxic workplace and what some members of Congress are calling a cover-up by the NFL. Tiffany Johnston, a former marketing and events coordinator for the team, told a congressional committee that she was strategically placed next to Snyder at a work dinner, not to discuss business, but to allow him, Dan Snyder, to place his hand on my thigh under the table. I learned that job survival meant I should continue my conversation with another coworker rather than call out Dan Snyder right then in the moment. I also learned later that evening how to awkwardly laugh when Dan Snyder aggressively pushed me toward his limo with his hand on my lower back, encouraging me to ride with him to my car. I learned how to continue to say no, even though the situation was getting more awkward, uncomfortable, and physical. I learned that the only reason Dan Snyder removed his hand from my back and stopped pushing me toward his limo was because his attorney intervened and said, Dan, this is a bad idea, a very bad idea, Dan. I learned that I should remove myself from Dan's grip while his attorney was distracting him. Deep conversation, deep topic, but thoughts, Muff, on this situation?
Quick thought is, did we really expect anything different whenever they had to give controlling interest of the team to Mrs. Dan Snyder? We all knew that there was more to this, and it's just now coming to greater light, and there's reasons why the NFL owners have these super secret meetings at the team meeting situation where it's owners only and Roger Goodell. You got to believe things like this come up, and they're never brought to light until somebody brings a lawsuit or other to the table. Not surprised at all.
Jim?
We said in the Flores section that ownership's hard to change and so on and so forth. But you remember when the Clippers owner got kiboshed from the NBA? I truly think this is one of those situations where other owners and Goodell need to rally around and say, all right, we're kicking this fool out. Like, enough is enough with Dan Snyder.
I hear you. I agree. There's a limit of the BS.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same take I had earlier. In my opinion, is there's so much evidence that says something nefarious was going on. It's going to be hard to change my mind the other way. So I have one last quick thought that I found, and I meant to put it in the NBA basketball realm. A player that I don't feel like we talk about as much because he's not as dramatic as the others, but Luka Doncic. Luka has the most triple doubles before the age of 23 of all time, but it's not like by one or two. So Luka has 45 triple doubles, and he has 20 more days before his 23-year-old birthday. Oscar Robinson only had 38, and Magic Johnson only had 31. So he's sitting at 7 above. Like, the record was 7. Any thoughts on Luka Doncic? You don't even have to have thoughts, but that was a quick thought of mine that I thought needed addressed.
Well,
Go, Luka.
My thought is, as long as when LeBron James is in this league, Luka Doncic cannot be the main headline.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Muff on that, but I also think when you're comparing his record to, or his stats to years past, it's a different game. So I don't know that that's fair. I don't know. It's impressive stat. Awesome. Good for him. I think he's a great player. I think Muff's point's valid.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
We just don't talk about him, and it wasn't a dramatic thing. It was just a good job. All right, that's all for quick thoughts. This week we do have a winner. I didn't award any positive points, but I awarded one negative point, and it was to Jim for gonging
That's
us.
fair.
And you
fair.
knew that
I
was
knew
coming.
that was coming.
You knew that was coming. I was trying to find some other points, but I just let them come to me whenever they spark. I can't force the point issue, so that's all right. So you're tied 1-1. Muff lost last week. You lost this week. You're good.